Good, today, I want to talk about something simple but powerful: learning to think clearly, act calmly, and stay in control. Life is full of challenges. Problems come when we react too quickly, speak without thinking, or let anger or fear take over. But we can choose a different way. When we are faced with a sudden event, a challenge, or an unexpected situation, our first impulse is often to act immediately. A sharp word from someone, a problem at work, or even a minor inconvenience can trigger an automatic reaction. We may feel anger, frustration, fear, or impatience rising inside us before we even have time to notice it. It is natural to feel this way because emotions are quick and powerful. They are designed to alert us to danger and to prepare us for action. But the very speed of these emotions is also why they can mislead us. Acting purely from impulse rarely serves us well. It often leads to mistakes, regret, and confusion. That is why the first step to living wisely is learning to think before you react. Thinking before reacting means creating a small but important space between the stimulus and your response. It means training yourself to pause, even for a moment, to observe what is happening. This pause is not weakness, it is strength. It is the recognition that your mind has more power than your immediate feelings. It is the understanding that you do not have to be driven by the first surge of emotion. Even a brief moment of reflection can prevent words that hurt, actions that fail, or decisions that trap you in regret. It allows you to consider the consequences of your actions before committing to them, giving you clarity in situations where confusion or anger would otherwise dominate. When you pause, you give yourself the chance to ask important questions. What is actually happening? What can I control, and what is beyond my control? Am I responding to the present moment or to a memory, assumption, or fear? Is my reaction aligned with my long-term values and goals, or is it driven by a fleeting feeling? These questions help redirect your mind from automatic reactions to intentional responses. They shift the focus from chaos to reason, from disorder to clarity. Over time, this habit of questioning before responding strengthens your judgment and sharpens your ability to navigate challenges calmly. Thinking before reacting also requires awareness of your emotions, but not their domination. Emotions are not enemies, they are signals. Anger might reveal an injustice, fear might reveal a risk, and frustration might reveal a need. By recognizing these signals without immediately acting on them, you gain insight instead of surrendering to impulse. You see the situation more clearly and can choose a response that is measured, effective, and appropriate. You become less likely to lash out, to regret harsh words, or to make decisions that worsen the problem. Instead, your mind becomes a place of clarity, your actions deliberate, and your life steadier. Developing this habit is not easy. The mind is trained from years of reacting automatically, often without reflection. Old habits of sudden anger, impatience, or defensiveness can be strong, and they demand consistent effort to change. Practice is essential. In small moments, when a minor irritation arises or a simple inconvenience occurs, test yourself. Pause. Think. Ask yourself what is within your power and what is not. Choose a response based on reason, not impulse. These small exercises strengthen your ability to act wisely when greater challenges come. Each moment of restraint builds the muscle of thoughtful action, and slowly, the automatic reaction becomes less frequent, replaced by intentional, clear thought. Thinking before reacting also improves relationships and interactions with others. People often respond to emotion with more emotion, escalating conflicts unintentionally. When you pause to think, you create space for understanding, empathy, and measured communication. You are able to respond rather than react, to choose words that heal rather than harm, to act in a way that strengthens rather than damages connections. By controlling the first impulse, you shape the entire flow of interaction. You set the tone for calm, reasoned dialogue rather than chaos and misunderstanding. Life is full of events, many of which we cannot change. People act in ways we cannot predict, circumstances shift without warning, and unexpected problems appear without reason. Yet, much of our suffering comes not from these events themselves, but from trying to control what is beyond our reach. When we worry about outcomes, blame others, or fight reality, we waste energy and invite frustration into our lives. The key to peace and effectiveness lies in focusing on what is within our control. By learning to distinguish between what we can change and what we cannot, we free our minds from unnecessary stress and act with clarity and purpose. What is within our control is our own mind, our choices, and our actions. How we think, how we speak, and how we respond are always within our power. We cannot control the weather, the economy, or the decisions of others, but we can control our thoughts and decisions about them. Focusing on our own power allows us to act where it matters most. Instead of wasting time and energy on anger, complaints, or regret, we can channel our attention into what we can influence directly. This is where real strength lies, not in trying to bend the world to our will, but in mastering our own will. When we focus on what is within our control, we also gain clarity about priorities. Life is full of distractions and demands, and it is easy to become overwhelmed by things we cannot change. We may worry about criticism, imagine future failures, or try to change people who are unwilling to change. Each of these thoughts pulls us away from the things we can influence. By returning our attention to our own choices and actions, we simplify our decisions. We can ask ourselves, what can I do right now to improve this situation? What is my responsibility? What part of this problem is actually mine to manage? These questions guide us toward practical action and prevent us from becoming in unnecessary worry. Focusing on what we can control also helps us act with greater calm and confidence. When we accept that some things are beyond our reach, we stop resisting them. Resistance creates stress and often leads to rash decisions or wasted energy. Acceptance does not mean passivity or giving up. It means understanding where our effort will have an effect and where it will not. When we act within our control, we do so fully, with thought and purpose. When we accept what we cannot control, we avoid frustration and maintain our inner calm, even in difficult situations. This is not weakness but wisdom, because it preserves our energy for what truly matters. Developing this habit requires mindfulness and regular practice. Each day presents opportunities to notice where we are focusing our energy. Are we trying to change another person's mind, worry about events in the distant future, or fix things we cannot influence? Or are we paying attention to our own actions, our own words, and our own choices? The difference is subtle, but it is powerful. Each time we recognize the boundary between what we can and cannot control, we strengthen our mind and reduce unnecessary suffering. Over time, this practice becomes natural, and our energy is spent on effective, meaningful effort rather than fruitless worry. This focus also shapes our response to setbacks and difficulties. Life will always bring challenges, but when we concentrate on what is within our control, we respond rather than react. We look for solutions, take responsibility for our actions, and maintain our composure. We stop blaming the world or others for our misfortune, and instead ask what steps we can take to navigate the situation wisely. This mindset builds resilience, because it grounds our strength not in external circumstances, which are uncertain, but in ourselves, which are always available to guide our actions. Life often feels confusing because our minds mix what is real with what we feel. Emotions are powerful and immediate, and they can easily color our perception of events. When something happens, we rarely see it as it truly is at first. Instead, we interpret it through the lens of fear, anger, excitement, or disappointment. A simple remark may feel like an insult, a small mistake may feel like failure, and a delay may feel like a disaster. These feelings are real, but they are not facts. They are interpretations, often exaggerated or misleading. Learning to separate facts from emotions is essential to thinking clearly and acting wisely. Separating facts from emotions starts with observation. When an event occurs, pause and notice what is actually happening. What can you see, hear, or measure without judgment? Focus on the facts, the exact words spoken, the actions taken, or the situation as it exists in reality. Avoid adding your own assumptions, fears, or desires. This simple step is more powerful than it seems. By identifying the facts first, you prevent emotions from controlling your understanding. You create a foundation of truth on which wise decisions can be built. Without this foundation, decisions are often rushed, confused, or destructive. Emotions themselves are signals, not commands. They inform us about our needs, values, or desires, but they do not dictate the right course of action. Anger may indicate that a boundary has been crossed, but it does not tell us the best way to respond. Fear may warn of danger, but it does not show the path through it. Happiness may suggest that something is enjoyable, but it does not prove it is wise. By observing emotions without immediately acting on them, we gain the ability to choose our responses. We can acknowledge our feelings, understand their source, and then decide whether acting on them will lead to benefit or harm. One practical way to separate facts from emotions is to ask simple questions. What exactly happened? What part of this situation is true and observable? What am I adding from my own mind? Am I interpreting this as good or bad before fully understanding it? These questions slow the mind and create space between feeling and reaction. They shift the focus from judgment to clarity. The mind becomes a tool for understanding rather than a battlefield of uncontrolled impulses. Over time, this practice strengthens judgment, reduces regret, and helps maintain calm even in chaotic situations. This separation also prevents unnecessary suffering. Much of our pain comes not from events themselves, but from the stories we tell ourselves about them. When someone criticizes us, we may immediately feel hurt, thinking we are inadequate. When we separate the fact, someone spoke words, from the emotion, the feeling of insult, we see the situation more clearly. The words may have been careless or thoughtless, but they do not define our worth. By distinguishing between what happened and what we feel, we reduce unnecessary distress and make space for rational action. Learning to separate facts from emotions also improves relationships. Misunderstandings often arise when people act based on their feelings rather than what is actually happening. A partner, friend, or colleague may say something neutral, but we interpret it as criticism or rejection. By focusing on the facts first, we avoid unnecessary conflict. We respond to reality rather than assumptions. This creates calmer interactions, clearer communication, and more trust. Others notice the steadiness in our behavior, which encourages cooperation and understanding rather than tension and hostility. The practice of separating facts from emotions is not a denial of feelings. It is a disciplined awareness that strengthens thought and action. Emotions are acknowledged, respected, and considered, but they do not dictate the response. We learn to act from reason rather than impulse, from understanding rather than fear, and from wisdom rather than habit. In the rush of life, it is easy to react without thinking. We are constantly faced with situations that demand attention: a sudden challenge at work, a disagreement with someone close, an unexpected delay, or a stressful event. Our instincts push us to respond immediately, often before our mind has fully assessed the situation. Acting too quickly can lead to mistakes, unnecessary conflict, or regret. That is why learning to pause and breathe before acting is so important. This simple habit gives the mind a chance to calm, to assess, and to respond wisely rather than impulsively. Pausing is not a sign of weakness or hesitation. On the contrary, it is an act of strength. It is a conscious choice to step back and observe, rather than be carried away by the first surge of emotion. When we pause, we allow space between the stimulus and our reaction. This space, even if it is only a few seconds, creates an opportunity to see the situation more clearly. It allows us to consider our options, understand the consequences of each action, and select a response that aligns with reason and values rather than with anger, fear, or desire for immediate relief. Breathing is a powerful tool that works hand in hand with pausing. When emotions rise, our body reacts physically, the heart beats faster, muscles tense, and the mind races. Conscious breathing helps to slow these reactions, bringing the body and mind into balance. A few deep, deliberate breaths signal to the brain that the immediate danger is not as urgent as the emotion suggests. Breathing calms the nervous system, which allows rational thought to return. The act of breathing is simple, but it creates a mental pause where clarity can emerge, and decisions can be made with control rather than compulsion. When we pause and breathe before acting, we also gain perspective. Immediate reactions are often influenced by temporary feelings or incomplete information. Anger can magnify a small insult into a great offense. Frustration can make a minor setback seem catastrophic, and fear can make a challenge feel impossible. By taking a moment to pause and breathe, we distance ourselves from these initial distortions. We are able to see the event as it truly is, not as it feels in the heat of the moment. Perspective allows us to act with wisdom, to respond in a measured and effective way, and to avoid the mistakes that often arise from impulsivity. This habit also strengthens self-control over time. Like any skill, it improves with practice. In small moments, when someone cuts in line, when technology fails, when a plan goes wrong, we can pause and breathe before reacting. Each moment of restraint trains the mind to act deliberately rather than impulsively. Gradually, this becomes second nature. The first surge of emotion still comes, but it no longer controls us. We respond intentionally, calmly, and wisely. Our mind becomes steady, and our actions are guided by reason rather than by fleeting feelings. Pausing and breathing also improves interactions with others. Many conflicts are escalated because one or both parties react immediately without reflection. A harsh word can provoke a harsh reply, creating cycles of misunderstanding and tension. When we pause and breathe, we interrupt this cycle. We respond with thoughtfulness, choosing words and actions that de-escalate rather than inflame. Others sense our calm and measured approach, which encourages better communication and cooperation. This habit not only protects our own peace of mind but also influences the environment around us positively. Finally, pausing and breathing before acting allows for better judgment in moments of pressure. Life often places us in situations where immediate decisions seem necessary, yet the quality of the decision matters most. By taking a brief moment to pause and breathe, we avoid being ruled by instinct or emotion. We give ourselves the chance to consider options carefully, to act according to principle, and to align our behavior with long-term goals rather than short-term impulses. Over time, this practice becomes a powerful anchor for the mind, helping to maintain calm, clarity, and effectiveness in all situations. Often, the greatest confusion in life comes not from what happens, but from how we interpret what happens. Events themselves are neutral, they simply exist. It is our emotions that attach meaning to them, and it is our judgments that turn them into something larger than they are. Anger, fear, disappointment, and joy are all powerful forces that influence the way we see the world, yet they can cloud our understanding. A sudden insult may feel like a deep personal attack, even if it was said carelessly or without thought. A mistake at work may feel like failure, even if it is only a small part of a larger process. Separating facts from emotions is the practice of seeing clearly, of understanding the difference between reality and interpretation. The first step in this process is awareness. When a situation arises, pay attention to what is real and observable. What exactly happened? What can you see, hear, or measure? Often, we mix these facts with assumptions, projections, or fears, creating a distorted picture. A person's words may be interpreted through the lens of our insecurities, turning a neutral comment into criticism. A setback may be seen as catastrophe because we allow worry and imagination to exaggerate it. By pausing to identify what is strictly factual, we create a foundation of clarity. Facts are the ground upon which reason can stand, while unchecked emotions can shake that foundation and lead to rash action. Emotions themselves are not inherently bad or harmful. They are signals informing us about our needs, values, and priorities. Anger may alert us to an injustice, fear may warn of danger, and sadness may signal loss or disappointment. The problem arises when we allow these signals to control our thoughts and actions without reflection. To separate facts from emotions means to notice these signals, acknowledge them, and then consider the reality of the situation before responding. It allows us to act from understanding rather than instinct, to respond with wisdom rather than reactivity, and to avoid decisions we may regret later. One practical approach is to ask questions that distinguish fact from feeling. What happened? What do I know for certain? Am I adding assumptions or interpretations to what I see? What am I feeling, and is that emotion based on reality or on my own thoughts about reality? This deliberate questioning slows the mind, creating space to think clearly. It prevents the distortion of events by fear, anger, or desire, and helps to maintain balance in the face of challenges. The act of questioning transforms the mind from a reactive state to a reflective state, giving control back to reason and judgment. Separating facts from emotions also reduces unnecessary suffering. Much of human unhappiness comes from believing emotions as absolute truth. When we feel insulted, rejected, or anxious, we often assume these feelings perfectly reflect reality. Yet feelings are subjective, they fluctuate, exaggerate, and sometimes mislead. Recognizing this distinction allows us to experience the emotion without being enslaved by it. We can acknowledge fear without letting it dictate our decisions, or recognize anger without allowing it to provoke harmful action. This clarity creates a sense of inner stability and freedom that is not dependent on circumstances. In relationships, this skill becomes even more critical. Misunderstandings and conflicts often arise because people respond to how they feel rather than what is true. A partner may speak in frustration, yet we perceive hostility. A colleague may criticize constructively, yet we take it as personal attack. By separating what actually occurred from the emotions it triggers, we respond more calmly and accurately. This improves communication, reduces unnecessary arguments, and fosters understanding, trust, and respect. Over time, this practice strengthens emotional resilience, allowing us to navigate life's ups and downs without losing composure. Separating facts from emotions is not a denial of feelings. It is not pretending that emotions do not exist. Instead, it is a disciplined way of observing life clearly, of letting reason guide action while acknowledging what we feel. Emotions inform, facts clarify, and together they allow us to respond to life with wisdom, calm, and purpose. By consistently practicing this distinction, we build a mind that is steady, clear, and capable of facing challenges with clarity without being swept away by the tides of emotion. In moments of pressure or sudden emotion, the human mind tends to act first and think later. A harsh word, an unexpected challenge, or a surprising event can trigger immediate reactions, often guided by anger, fear, or frustration. These instinctive responses are natural, but they are rarely helpful. Acting too quickly without reflection often leads to mistakes, regrets, or unnecessary conflict. The simple practice of pausing and breathing before taking action creates space for clarity, control, and wiser decisions. It allows the mind to settle, the body to relax, and the emotions to become manageable, giving us the chance to respond instead of react. Pausing does not mean weakness or indecision. On the contrary, it is an exercise in strength and self-discipline. It is the conscious choice to create distance between the stimulus and the response. Even a brief pause of a few seconds can shift the outcome of a situation dramatically. In those few seconds, we can consider what is actually happening, evaluate our options, and decide on the best course of action. The pause interrupts the automatic chain of reaction, giving the mind the opportunity to operate with reason rather than emotion. Over time, this pause becomes a habit, a mental muscle that allows calm and thoughtful responses even in the most stressful situations. Breathing is a practical and powerful tool that enhances the effect of pausing. When we feel strong emotions rising, our body responds first. The heart rate increases, muscles tense, and thoughts race. Conscious, deep breathing counteracts these reactions. By focusing on slow, deliberate breaths, we calm the nervous system, steady the mind, and create a sense of balance. Each breath acts as a signal to the body that the moment is not as urgent as the emotion suggests. The rhythm of breathing provides a natural anchor, allowing us to regain composure, observe our feelings, and consider our next steps carefully. Pausing and breathing before acting also improves perception and judgment. Emotional reactions often exaggerate events, turning minor annoyances into major crises. Fear may make a small problem seem insurmountable, anger may amplify a slight insult into a serious offense, and impatience may distort the importance of a delay. By taking a moment to pause and breathe, we reduce the influence of these distortions. The situation becomes clearer, and the best response becomes more obvious. We are able to evaluate the consequences of our actions, align our decisions with our values, and act with intentionality rather than impulsiveness. Developing this habit requires practice. At first, it may feel unnatural to pause instead of reacting immediately. Life's pressures often push us to respond quickly, and emotions demand attention. But small, consistent exercises can strengthen this skill. When minor irritations arise, a traffic delay, a misplaced item, a rude comment, pause. Take a deep breath. Consider your response. Each successful pause reinforces the ability to act calmly and intentionally in more significant situations. Over time, the initial surge of emotion loses its control, and thoughtful action becomes instinctive rather than reactive. This habit also enhances relationships and interactions. Many conflicts escalate because people act immediately on emotional impulses, leading to harsh words, defensiveness, or misunderstandings. Pausing and breathing interrupts this cycle, allowing for measured responses and calmer communication. It provides the opportunity to listen, understand, and respond in a way that maintains respect and clarity. The practice of pausing not only protects our own composure, but also creates an environment of steadiness and cooperation, improving the quality of interaction with others. Finally, pausing and breathing before acting builds resilience. Life will continue to present challenges, surprises, and pressures. By establishing the habit of stepping back, calming the body, and observing the situation, we equip ourselves to face difficulties with steadiness and control. This practice strengthens the mind, nurtures calmness, and ensures that our actions reflect reason and wisdom rather than temporary emotions. Each moment of pause is a small victory over impulsive reaction, a reinforcement of thoughtful living, and a step toward mastery of the self. Decisions made in the heat of emotion are rarely the best ones. When we feel anger, fear, or frustration, our mind narrows, our judgment becomes clouded, and our actions are often impulsive. Calmness, however, provides clarity. It allows us to see the situation as it truly is, to weigh our options carefully, and to choose a course that aligns with reason and long-term goals. Letting calm guide our decisions is not about suppressing emotion or avoiding responsibility. It is about acting from understanding rather than from reaction, ensuring that our choices are deliberate and effective. Calmness begins within. It is not dependent on external circumstances, because life is unpredictable and often beyond our control. It comes from mastering our own mind, from regulating our responses, and from cultivating inner steadiness. When we are calm, we are less likely to be influenced by exaggeration, fear, or fleeting desires. The calm mind can assess risk realistically, see opportunities clearly, and recognize solutions that are often invisible to a mind dominated by emotion. It allows judgment to operate on facts rather than feelings, producing decisions that are more reliable, measured, and wise. One practical way to let calm guide decisions is to create a pause between observation and action. In that pause, take a breath, reflect on the situation, and consider your response. Ask yourself, what is truly happening here? What are the possible outcomes of each choice? Which action aligns with my values and long-term goals? This pause does not delay action unnecessarily. Rather, it prevents mistakes born of haste or emotion. It transforms the decision-making process from reactive to intentional, giving power back to reason over impulse. Calmness also protects us from being controlled by external pressures. Life often presents situations where we feel rushed or pressured by others' expectations, societal norms, or immediate circumstances. A mind dominated by anxiety or excitement may give in to these pressures, choosing options that are convenient or pleasing in the moment, but unwise in the long run. Calmness creates space to resist unnecessary pressure. It allows us to act according to principle, rather than being swept along by the currents of external demands. In this way, calmness is both a shield and a guide, preserving integrity while illuminating the path forward. Allowing calm to guide decisions also improves relationships and interactions. When we respond to conflict with steadiness rather than agitation, we prevent unnecessary escalation. Calm speech and measured actions create understanding, foster cooperation, and reduce misunderstandings. Others are more likely to listen, respect, and respond positively when faced with clarity and composure, rather than impulsive anger or fear. Calmness is contagious. It shapes the environment around us and influences outcomes in ways that impulsive reactions rarely can. The practice of calm decision-making also builds confidence. Knowing that you can face challenges with composure and make choices based on reason rather than reaction strengthens trust in yourself. Over time, repeated practice allows calm to become the default state when facing difficult situations. Even when pressure is high, emotions are strong, or circumstances are confusing, the mind that is trained to remain calm can evaluate, act, and respond effectively. This confidence is rooted not in certainty about outcomes, which are often unpredictable, but in the reliability of one's own steady judgment. Calmness is not the absence of emotion, it is the presence of control. Emotions may arise, but they do not dictate action. A calm mind recognizes feelings as signals, evaluates them, and decides how to act in alignment with reason. Decisions guided by calmness are deliberate, thoughtful, and resilient. They are less likely to lead to regret, conflict, or wasted energy. By letting calm guide our decisions, we harness clarity, preserve our energy, and ensure that our actions reflect wisdom rather than impulse. Mastery over life begins with mastery over oneself. The mind is the origin of every choice, and the thoughts we entertain shape the words we speak and the actions we take. If our thoughts are uncontrolled, they lead to confusion, poor decisions, and unnecessary conflict. If our words are careless, they can harm relationships and create tension. If our actions are impulsive, they can result in mistakes, regret, or harm to ourselves and others. True strength lies not in controlling the world around us, but in mastering our thoughts, words, and actions, which are always within our power. Mastering your thoughts starts with awareness. Our minds are constantly active, moving from one idea to another, often without reflection. Many of these thoughts are unhelpful worries about the future, regrets about the past, assumptions about others, or judgments that distort reality. By observing our thoughts, we can recognize which ones are useful and which ones lead to distraction or distress. This practice requires honesty and discipline. It requires noticing when the mind drifts toward anger, fear, or envy, and consciously redirecting it toward reason, clarity, and constructive reflection. Over time, controlling your thoughts strengthens focus, reduces unnecessary suffering, and creates the foundation for wise decisions. Words are the next extension of our inner life. The things we speak have the power to influence others and shape our environment. Words spoken in haste or anger can wound, create conflict, and damage trust. Words that are careless or thoughtless can mislead or confuse. Mastery of words begins with choosing them deliberately. Pause before speaking, consider the impact of what you are about to say, and ask whether your words are necessary, truthful, and kind. Thoughtful speech builds understanding, preserves relationships, and reflects the inner calm and clarity of a disciplined mind. Words are not simply reflections of thought, they are instruments that can either construct or destroy, depending on the care with which they are used. Actions are the final manifestation of mastery. Even when our thoughts are clear and our words measured, actions must align with reason and principle. Impulsive actions driven by unchecked emotion, desire, or habit can undermine our goals and create regret. Mastery of actions requires patience, discipline, and foresight. Consider the consequences of what you do, prioritize what is within your control, and act in ways that reflect your values. By controlling your actions, you ensure that external events do not dictate your behavior. Instead, your behavior remains consistent with wisdom and integrity, no matter the circumstances. The process of mastering thoughts, words, and actions is interconnected. Thoughts shape words, words influence actions, actions reinforce thoughts. Each element affects the others, creating a cycle that either strengthens clarity and self-control or amplifies confusion and chaos. By practicing awareness, discipline, and reflection in all three areas, we build harmony between mind, speech, and behavior. This harmony allows us to respond to challenges effectively, maintain composure under pressure, and act in ways that are deliberate and constructive. This mastery is not easy and requires constant attention. Habits of impulsive thinking, careless speech, or reactive behavior are deeply ingrained and must be consistently challenged. Small daily exercises are essential: observing your thoughts, speaking deliberately, pausing before acting, and reviewing your behavior. With practice, these habits become natural. The mind grows stronger, words become more measured, and actions more intentional. Over time, mastery of the self becomes a source of freedom, confidence, and inner peace, because external events can no longer disturb the calm, disciplined inner life. Mastery of thoughts, words, and actions is not about perfection. It is about deliberate practice, awareness, and self-discipline. It allows us to live with purpose, make better choices, and maintain stability in the face of uncertainty. The world may remain unpredictable, but a mastered mind, careful speech, and intentional actions provide the tools to navigate it wisely, effectively, and with dignity. Life presents us with many situations that demand a response. Some are small and routine, while others are sudden and challenging. The way we respond in these moments often determines the course of events that follow. Acting impulsively, driven by emotion or habit, rarely leads to the best outcomes. Words spoken in anger can wound relationships, hasty decisions can create problems that last for years, and reactions based on fear or pride can trap us in unnecessary conflict. Responding wisely, rather than impulsively, requires awareness, self-control, and the ability to pause before taking action, allowing reason to guide our choices. Impulsive responses are often automatic. They emerge from habit, emotion, or a sense of urgency, rather than deliberate thought. Anger, fear, frustration, or desire can cloud judgment and narrow perception. When we act without reflection, we often exaggerate the situation, assume the worst, or prioritize immediate relief over long-term benefit. The consequences of such actions are frequently regretted later, yet the habit of reacting impulsively repeats, because it provides a short-lived sense of release or satisfaction. Wisdom in response requires breaking this cycle, creating space between stimulus and reaction, and training the mind to choose action thoughtfully. The first step toward wise responses is observation. Notice the situation as it truly is, not as your mind interprets it in haste. Separate facts from emotions, identify what is within your control, and consider possible outcomes. Observation requires honesty and patience. It is not enough to react to what you feel, you must understand what is actually happening. Even small delays, taking a breath, pausing for a moment, or reflecting before responding, can transform a reaction into a deliberate response. This pause provides the clarity needed to act in accordance with reason and principle rather than impulse. Wise responses also require perspective. Impulsiveness often arises because we view a situation as more urgent, threatening, or personal than it actually is. A slight criticism may feel like a deep insult, a minor setback may feel catastrophic, or a small mistake may feel like failure. By stepping back and gaining perspective, we recognize the true scale of the situation. We see what matters and what does not, what requires action and what does not. Perspective reduces the influence of fleeting emotion and allows us to respond thoughtfully, preserving our energy, relationships, and peace of mind. Another aspect of responding wisely is patience. Patience allows us to wait until our thoughts are clear and emotions are settled. It prevents us from being swept away by the immediate desire to defend, retaliate, or correct. Patience does not mean passivity, it means choosing the right moment and the right manner to act. Even when decisions must be made quickly, a calm, deliberate mind will make better choices than one driven by panic or rage. Patience strengthens judgment, increases control, and creates opportunities for more effective and constructive action. Responding wisely also involves aligning action with values and principles. Impulsive reactions often ignore what truly matters, focusing instead on temporary satisfaction, pride, or relief. Wise responses consider long-term effects and act according to integrity, fairness, and reason. This consistency builds trust, strengthens relationships, and cultivates respect from others, while impulsive reactions often damage connections and create conflict. By acting with purpose, thought, and adherence to principle, we navigate challenges without being controlled by momentary emotion. The practice of responding wisely strengthens over time through deliberate effort. Each situation, no matter how small, provides an opportunity to pause, observe, and choose deliberately. Daily practice of self-awareness, reflection, and careful decision-making gradually transforms habit. The mind becomes steady, reactions become measured, and impulse no longer dominates behavior. Over time, responding wisely becomes a natural pattern, one that shapes not only decisions and actions, but also the character of the person acting.